Welcome into the In the Money podcast for KeenelandSelect.com for Saturday, October 1st. Tom Leach, along with Jonathan Fowler, who's pinch hitting for Jim Goodman this week. And we're going to take a look at the Breeders' Cup Preview Day card at Belmont. This is not the only one they'll have, but got 3 graded stakes that are preps for Breeders' Cup races. And Jonathan, this 8th race that we'll begin with, the Grade 3 Pilgrim, starts a late pick 4, which we'll come back to at the end of the podcast here, but let's start with just who you like in the Grade 3 Pilgrim for 2-year-olds going on the turf at 1 mile and a 16th.
This is quite an interesting race, especially now that there's quite a bit of rain slated for Belmont for the weekend, both Friday and Saturday. So we've got young horses in the Pilgrim, these 2-year-olds coming in relatively, not very experienced, 1 or 2, maybe 3 races. Certainly not very many of them have started on a wet track before, so not a lot to go off on that. But, however, we'll focus on some of the classier ones. The number 6, Oscar Performance, 2-1 morning line favorite, has all the right breeding credentials. Kitten's Joy out of a theatrical mare destroyed the competition in his second start to break his maiden by 10 lengths at Saratoga. Follows that up with a nice bullet work on September 25th, so he looks quite the part. Then I went over to Todd Pletcher's entry, the number 2, J.S. Choice, 4-1 on the morning line. Also won his maiden in his second start by over 3 lengths at Saratoga, so got to pay attention to that one. If I'm also wanted to take a little bit of a look at the number 1, Frostmorn. Numbers don't, his 74 Briz rating didn't really add up to really contend with some of these, but Christophe Clement sends that one in, so I'm using that one kind of on the outside. But another horse I'm really intrigued by at 10-1 is the number 9, Kitten's Cat. Finished in his initial debut at Ellis, finished 3rd, and then came to Kentucky Downs and won very nicely going a mile at that distance. And so I just really looked when I went back and looked at that race, I was really impressed. Ships up to Belmont, so they think very highly of him. So for me, I'm going to use the 6, 2, and 9 in this race.
I'm like you and Kitten's Cat. I was real impressed with that race down at Kentucky Downs, and I think he's got a big shot in here. I started to go Oscar Performance. That I had him last time, and it was just a very visually impressive effort up at Saratoga. But I took a little shot here with Sir Douglas. It's a private purchase, it appears, and they put this horse in Chad Brown's barn, and he's taken a long time getting him to the races off a nice effort at Ellis Park that I'm assuming is what led to the purchase. So Sir Douglas now goes for Chad Brown in this spot, and at what I think will be a decent price because Oscar Performance, I think, will get pounded. I'm going to take a little shot with Sir Douglas here, but it's not a strong opinion, kind of taking a little value play. Oscar Performance, you got to use. Kitten's Cat would be next on my list, and then I've got J.S. Choice and Bird's Eye View, and I would use all of those in exactas keying around Sir Douglas in this spot. 9th race is one of 2 Grade 1s. This one's the Vosburg, 6 furlongs for 3-year-olds and up, and AP Indian has had just a tremendous year and has won on this track, but I think there's an awful lot of speed in here. So unless some of the speed scratches, a horse that can come from a little bit off, and I'm going to go Stall Walking Dude. Looks like this horse is in his best form. And I like that Irad Ortiz comes back to ride him again off the effort at Saratoga. So I'm going to use Stall Walking Dudes, run well at Belmont before. Got to use AP Indian with him. I'm going to key Stall Walking Dude with AP Indian, Holy Boss, Joking, who loves this track, and Danny's Deceiver, who could be a nice price in here. How about you?
I'm always looking for a price, and AP Indian is certainly the class of this race. Not so sure about how he's going to perform on a sloppy track. The last time he did, he finished a not-so-good 6th in the Phoenix last fall at Keeneland. So looking around after I saw that it was raining, Weekend Hideaway, the number 1, kind of popped out at me. He has 5 starts over and off track with 4 wins. Granted, I mean, he's not winning Grade 1s and 2s and things like that, but he has performed. His numbers move up when he's been on a sloppy or muddy track. So if things can get out of hand with the pace like you were talking about, maybe he's going to be one of those that can maybe pick up some of those pieces. XY Jet is in here, the number 6 at 7-2. Last time we saw him was back in March when he was second in the Golden Shaheen out in Dubai. Quite an impressive race. I mean, he just the winner, Muarab, just barely beat him that day, and he was all out. So maybe it took 6 months to recover from that race, and maybe it's kind of silly to look at this horse after such a long layoff. But I think if anyone was going to beat AP Indian, I think this would be the horse. Once again, not so sure about his off-track performances, but I'm going to take a little bit of a shot with Weekend Hideaway, AP Indian, and then I'm going to take a look at XY Jet before the race. But as of right now, I'm going to include him as well. Let's
go to the 10th race, the Grade 1 Beldame, and it's fillies and mares 3 and up going a mile and an eighth in here. Who did you land on?
Forever Unbridled, she's going to get hammered. Right now, she's already at even odds on the morning line, and she was. That personal Ensign back on August 27th was an incredible race. That was just one of the best races in the Distaff division all year long with all those Grade 1 winners. And they finished all within about a length of each other, so it was quite the incredible race. So she's definitely, suited for this race. She's not finished out of the money this year in her 4 starts. But I question her off-track performances just because she's never raced on an off-track before, so quite intrigued by that. So on the off chance that she doesn't run her A race, I'm looking at the number 5, Going for Broke. She did break her maiden here early in the year in May at Belmont on a sloppy track, and she did it quite convincingly. So I'm going to use those 2 alone in my pick 4 wager.
I'm going Forever Unbridled off that career best Beyer Fig last time, and I think a little bit of a drop in class in this spot. I think she's going to finally get her Grade 1 here. Got to use Going for Broke as well. I like that one. Off the tracks, I will use. And if you want to go one further deep, Paola Queen. I'm going to key those just for this race around everything around Forever Unbridled as the key horse in Exactas. Now, my pick 4, I'm going to start out. I'm going to use Sir Douglas Oscar Performance and Kittens Out in the opening leg. I'm going to go deep in the Vosburg, Stall Walking Dude, AP Indian, Holy Boss, Joking, and Danny's Deceiver. I'm going to use Forever Unbridled and Off the Tracks in the Beldame. And then the last leg's a maiden race. The 4 looks like the favorite. 2's a first-time start, I think, for Linda Rice. The 7, I thought, could run better after that start last time under its belt. So I'm going to use 2, 4, 7 in the last leg. So 3 by 5 by 2 by 3 for me. How about you?
All right. So starting in race 8, I'm going to use the 6 Oscar Performance, 2 JS Choice, and then also the 9 Kittens Cat. In the second leg, race 9, I'm going to use AP Indian and the number 1 Weekend Hideaway. In race 10, I'm just going to do number 2 Forever Unbridled and the number 5 Going for Broke. And in that last race, it's quite a difficult one, but I'm going to use the number 4 Joe's Bold Cat, who is at even odds. Also going to use the number 1 Undercover Agent and the number 6 Dire Maker with Javier Castellano at 10-1.
Thought you were setting up for the all button in the last.
Oh well, that's where I really want to go. If you can cut down and get some singles in there somewhere, but I think this pick 4 sequence is pretty tough to find you a single, especially given all the mud potential.
You've got a preview day, Breeders' Cup preview day out at Santa Anita with another Dortmund California Chrome Showdown. You've got 3 stakes races at Churchill Downs, including the return of Run Happy in the ACAC. So there's some interesting spots on Saturday to mix in with your college football watching. And then on next Friday, October the 7th, it's opening day at Keeneland. We'll be doing podcasts for the late pick 4 and the feature for every day of the fall meet. And we'll be back next Saturday with a big Keeneland preview podcast for the Fall Stars weekend Saturday card. So, Jonathan, good luck.
All right. Best of luck to you as well.
That's going to do it for this edition of the In the Money podcast for KeenelandSelect.com.